ZNS Network presents The Bahamas Tonight. This portion of the news brought to you by BTC Everyday.
Government calling for greater accountability from those agencies responsible for communication during the hurricane season.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Chris Saunders. Thank you so much for joining us. In fact, the Member of Parliament for Maguana, Inagua, Crooked Island, Acklins and Long Key, the Honourable V. Alfred Gray, is calling for a full investigation into who dropped the ball on communication. At the same time, Prime Minister, the Right Honourable Perry Christie, says the deficiency in communication must never happen again. Here's Clint Watson.
Prime Minister, the Right Honourable Perry Christie, is not backing down from his statement that Hurricane Joaquin and our response to the storm has brought about some important teachable moments. Mr. Christie explained to reporters while on Acklins there are lessons to learn regarding response mechanisms. He was adamant that we must address deficient communications.
It is not acceptable to go into areas in our country where electricity has failed and people do not have satellite phones. All right? And so, look, it is what it is, and we have to be able to learn from it and be critical about it and whatnot. I've had to promise that I will fly back into this area satellite phones, all right, because quite frankly they ought to have been there.
Mr. Christie accepts that this storm came with little warning and formed literally overnight. Yet he says there's no room for excuses, as the government must ensure the necessary framework is in place.
And even though this is a surprise, we have to be able to anticipate that in emergencies and disasters, communication goes, and we have to have trusted people with the capacity to be able to say what is happening. That's the only way we can exist in this country properly.
Telecommunications wasn't the only avenue that failed. According to the Honourable V. Alpha Gray, whose constituency of Michael was among those with mass devastation, communication and tracking the storm collapsed, and as a result, someone should be held accountable. On Thursday, Cabinet met, and as they chart the way forward, the Member of Parliament from Michael will be looking for greater accountability in the wake of what transpired with Hurricane Joaquin. He says that his constituents complained that they did not get any information on this storm until the day when it began impacting them.
People rely on the Met Office and NEMA for accurate, or at least good information on which they could act. The government is definitely going to have to look to see whether everybody did what they should have done, when they should have done it, and wherever somebody should have done something that they didn't do, they should be responsible for it. Some heads should roll.
Clint Watson, ZNS Network News.
Stories of survival continue to pour in from residents who had to make, in some cases, incredible effort to make it through Hurricane Joaquin.
Tonight, Janae Noel Ferguson shares the story of a woman from Acklins who says she was certain she would not live to tell this story.
That I was to work, everybody's to work nice and fine, and Councillor Virgil, one of our councillors, came to the office and he said to the administrator that it's raining, and he would advise him, if he would let his staff go a bit early, because once this type of rain continue, the bridge between Lovely Bay and the main Acklins would be covered and the vehicles wouldn't be able to pass.
Antoinette Forbes left work early Thursday afternoon with no real warning of the Category 4 hurricane and the devastation it would eventually bring. She's a resident of Lovely Bay, Acklins for the past 15 years and said the monster storm was the worst she's ever experienced. Antoinette describes the water levels rising in her home and with her husband witnessed conditions progress from bad to worse.
I sat and watched the water come onto the land, and the water looked like it was trying to come in the road. And that's when me and my husband, we started to get concerned. He said, okay, the water's coming into the road. The sea actually cut a road into the road from the sea leading to my house. So we watch all of that happen, and when you see the sea reach to the house, to the yard, and start to come on my first step, then he says, oh, say, baby, we dead.
She said they were eventually able to escape to a neighbor's home, which was relatively on higher ground, and watched as the wind and the storm surges took items out at sea. Now she became even more concerned as Lovely Bay is sandwiched in the middle of the ocean.
If sea meeting sea and I in the middle, I know it's a problem.
With electricity supply out, Forbes was able to send a final text to her daughter, Shandira Roll, indicating that she needed help and fast.
I wanted to help, but get her help, but or try and reach her or anyone else who was able, but because it was then, I guess, communication went from the entire island after that and couldn't communicate to no one and just couldn't sleep. The first time I've slept was last night.
Roll said it was a gut-wrenching feeling not knowing if her mother would survive the storm. And as soon as the all-clear was given, she made her way to Acklands. The feeling, she said, was priceless.
So I ran to her and hugged her because I was happy to see her. And I tell her, come, let's go.
See this big smile and those teeth. I say, oh my God. I saw him walking with someone, but I wasn't penetrating who and where they were going. But when she smiled, I dropped the broom. I forget Conch Shell was in the road. I forget Bottle was in the road. I don't remember. I was even bare feet.
Now, as for the Forbes, going back to Lovely Bay Acklands may not be a permanent idea for her or other residents.
I don't think it's wise to invest no money, no big money, into repairing no homes in Lovely Bay. Just do temporary stuff because you know that's your home. You just don't want to abandon your home. You could come there probably on weekends or whatever, right? You could stay there, but when you know the period of June to November when it's hurricane season, pack up the end of May and don't come back till the 1st of January.
And as the road to recovery continues, she hopes that the family can be even better prepared to survive any storm. Janae Noel Ferguson, ZNS Network News.
Well, nearly a week after Joaquin pounded the southern Bahamas, Long Islanders continue to pick up the pieces to restore a normal life. Cleopatra Murphy is in Long Island and has this update.
Long Island no longer looks like it did when officials visited the island on Saturday for an initial assessment. Some of the water has begun to recede and has gone down considerably. The Deadman's Key Airport that was underwater is now opened, and roads that were under feet of water are now passable. It is clear the island was devastated by Hurricane Joaquin, but residents are trying to pick up the pieces. During one of my interviews, I spoke with a couple that took refuge in the rafters for hours as they tried to escape water that rose to 8 feet in their home. That couple says they may not be able to return to the home after the trauma they experienced. Theirs is one of many stories of survival from Long Island residents. In the meantime, efforts are also underway to bring relief to the residents. I saw several trucks loaded with groceries and water intended for residents who have been hard hit. One of those relief volunteers told us that it will be a difficult task getting the island on its feet again, but it will rise again. Reporting from Long Island, Cleopatra Murphy, ZNS Network News.
When the AAA Marine barge arrived in Long Island bringing much-needed supplies, residents received them with open arms. The barge arrived at the dock in Salt Pond, Long Island, shortly after 4 o'clock on Tuesday. A look at the island Breeze Resort saw that the deck on the seaside received severe damage. Harding Supply Store, just across the street, was still standing, though. The Island Link storage shed is also standing. Meanwhile, the regatta site will need some work to bring it back to a state of normalcy. And over in Salt Pond, 2 smack fishing boats were tossed to the side of the road, destroyed. Owners of the 2 boats will definitely need a new fishing fleet. Vaughn Aubrey is back home safe from his mailboat voyage. He was in Ragged Island and the Exumas, which did not feel the brunt of the storm. He, though, still weathered some of it. Here's his report.
ZNS News saw firsthand the spirit of goodwill of Bahamians being their brother's keeper. In Ragged Island, we witnessed 3 young men willingly assist the Lone Bahamas Electricity Corporation employee on the island, FICO Wallace, replace a blown fuse onto a 50-foot light pole during heavy winds and driving rain in Duncan Town on Thursday. On Monday, I went with 2 crew members of the Captain C to unload freight at Baratari. We were in a 17-foot boat as the 125-foot mail boat docked some 400 feet away due to shallow water. This was routine. What was not routine is that Jamal Maycock of the Captain C, after unloading freight, including gas cylinders, was then asked to rescue Bob Smith. of Coastline Adventures, who ran out of gas on a nearby key just outside Baratari. Maycock told me, "This is how we do it in the islands. Tomorrow, it could be me in need." And now learning and seeing the devastation in South Long Island, Crooked Island, Mayaguana, Cat Island, Rum Cay, San Salvador, and other islands, the focus is getting the assistance to those desperately in need. For tomorrow, it might be you or me. Let the indomitable Bahamian spirit shine bright as we rebuild and restore what Hurricane Joaquin thought he could crush with his 130-mile-per-hour winds. Thanks for your prayers. I am grateful to be safe and sound at home after a real island life experience. I am Vaughn Aubrey, ZNS Network News.
Well, all of the schools in the Macau district were impacted by Hurricane Joaquin, and today the Ministry of Education met with those teachers to have them relocated and reassigned to schools across the capital. LaDon Davis talked to teachers about their experiences during the storm and educational officials about plans moving forward.
Close to 40 teachers from Lovely Bay, Acklands, and Crooked Island will be reassigned to several schools across the capital after they were displaced due to the devastation of Hurricane Joaquin. Acting Deputy Director of Education Joel Lewis says those teachers have an option to be redeployed to schools in another family island if vacancies exist. Additionally, he says the ministry is prepared to accommodate those teachers as best as they possibly can.
We intend during this transitional period to ensure that we continue with their rental subsidy to assist them in relocating. We've also brought in the EAP, Employee Assistance Program, to assist them with any stress that might have been brought on during the storm.
A few teachers we spoke to say while riding out the storm was a traumatizing experience, their biggest concern is rebuilding their lives.
I was stuck in the house for actually 4 or 5 days with no electricity, no food, no telephone, nothing. So it was very scary. And I had a little girl with me, my niece, Alexis Rock.
We had no shutters up, no boards up, nothing up. We didn't have time to do that because all we knew is there's a storm coming, prepare.
Experienced 2 hurricanes in Grand Bahama, but none like this one. This was the worst. This was the worst because I had to walk through water, sleep in a car, 8 adults in one truck. The truck moving like the wind was heavy, the water was up to here, our house damaged.
Acting President of the Bahamas Union of Teachers, Zane Lightbourne, says one of the union's main priorities is to get an assessment on the immediate needs of their affected members.
We wanted to impact them where the needs were the greatest. So we are going to, of course, write a check to those persons. I don't wish to disclose the amount right now, but we are going to write a check. Also, we're going to facilitate them going back to the island to bring their stuff out of the island. Additionally, we're getting a list from all of those teachers on their losses.
Education officials say all affected teachers should be reassigned to schools across the capital over the next 2 weeks. Students will also be given either a set curriculum or redeployed to a school of their choice. Some 250 teachers, including Long Island and San Salvador, were affected by the storm. LaDon Davis, ZNS Network News.